41. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
38 officially at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Money Hour radio show, Saturday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer. Brought to you by Pearshell Financial Group.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. This is a sort of a pet geek issue of mine, evolution. But it's bigger than that. We're pleased to be joined by Perry Marshall. He's an American online marketing consultant and author of 80/20 Sales and Marketing and Evolution 2.0, Breaking the Deadlock Between Darwin and Design. That's where I want to go. But he's also got some suggestions, generally speaking, for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. He's he's a consultant and guru to a lot of successful entrepreneurs, including the people behind FanDuel, for example. But I want to talk about Evolution 2.0, at least for starters. Perry Marshall, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So, pun intended, give us the evolution, the evolution of Evolution 2.0. Someone's really a pun.
So, my brother went to China as a missionary in 2000, and in 2004 I went to visit him, and I realized when I got there that he's not a Christian anymore. He's almost an atheist. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a shock to my system. We're both pastors' kids. And I got in this argument with him, and I said, Brian, I said, look at the hand at the end of your arm. I said, I'm an engineer. This is a nice piece of engineering. You don't think it's a accumulation of random accidents, do you? And he goes, hold on, just a minute. And he came back with this whole answer. All you need is random mutations for millions of years. You don't need a designer. And scientists know this. And I listened to that and I thought, okay, I'm not sure that's right. But I also realized that I didn't really know. And I knew that a lot of biologists would agree with him and not me. And so I said, you know what? I am going to stop arguing with Brian. And when I get home from China, I am going to find out. I'm going to use my engineering sensibilities, and I can read a scientific paper, and I am going to get to the bottom of this, and I am going to let science make this decision for me. I had no idea how fascinating this was about to get. No idea. And that is where Evolution 2.0 came from. And a few months ago at the Royal Society in Great Britain, which is the oldest scientific body in the world, I announced a $10 million technology prize called the Evolution 2.0 prize to get to the bottom of really what is the mystery of life.
Well, I mean, and it's interesting, too, because the accepted wisdom around Darwin and the genesis of and development of life is increasingly rejected. It just doesn't get the amplification. I mean, it was 15 years ago you had 500 scientists, including many renowned biologists and microbiologists, suggest that at minimum, Darwin's theory was incomplete. And more recently, you've had sort of the conversion of David Gelernter, who is not particularly religious. He's, of course, the famed computer science professor at Yale. And he basically just said, I went to look at the science, sort of the same thing you're suggesting, is sort of apply my skills as a logician and just looked at Darwin's theory versus what we now know to be true in 2019. And there are just huge gaps that don't explain the evolution of life on this planet, consistent with Darwin's theory.
Well, so that's why we call it Evolution 2.0, because it barely resembles the description that you were given in high school. Mm-hmm. What I found was, I found that there was two sides. So there was the creationist side, and well, evolution is a hoax, and all of that. And then there was the hard left side, which was, no, we've got it all figured out. And the truth was, both of these sides we're really not telling you the whole story at all. What I found was bacteria can do more programming in 12 minutes than a team of Google engineers can do in 12 weeks. And that things evolve all the time. I mean, this is why you have to finish your antibiotics, because those germs will evolve. And it's not just microevolution, that you can get major evolutionary changes in very short periods of time.
Exactly.
But the creationists didn't want to tell you this, because then that would support evolution, and they can't have that. And the Darwinists weren't telling you this, because it turns out nature is way smarter than they ever told you. There's a lot of people, they try to dumb down nature when they describe it to you, when in fact, if any company in Silicon Valley knew what one bacteria knows, they would set the NASDAQ on fire.
Yeah, but Galertner suggests the biggest flaw with Darwinism is how hard it would be to randomly make new functional proteins, and Darwin's evolutionary theory depends on a huge number of them. He didn't have the understanding of molecular biology that we do today, but that's a huge problem for his thesis.
Well, evolution is not random mutations. It's response to random things that happen by systems that sense everything going on in the environment. And so, like the latest Nobel Prize that just came out last Monday was all about the fact that cells respond to changes in oxygen and then change their DNA in response to that sometimes in minutes. Okay, and this affects cancer research and disease and so our understanding of evolution as not random mutations but purposeful adaptations to the environment, it goes to everything we're trying to do in medicine today. It's totally relevant, and the fact that this has been butchered by the left and by the right it's costing us lives, it's costing us medical progress, it's costing us technology. And so that's why we put a whole bunch of money behind a prize to get to the bottom of this.
Are you looking at all about some of the other things we misunderstand from sort of Darwin's time forward, including some of the critiques of Darwinism by like Thomas Malthus that is misunderstood as being being supportive of population control, when in point of fact Malthus was absolutely opposed to sort of those government-directed controls. But it's just our misunderstanding of what he was trying to say in his critique of Darwinism.
The abuse of evolutionary theory gave us Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, Mao, eugenics. And see, this is why we have to get this right. Evolution is not survival of the fittest. Evolution is survival of the most cooperative. All major evolutionary leaps are leaps in cooperation. So most people know that the thing that makes plants green is a chloroplast. Most people heard that in high school. But did you know that a chloroplast is actually a blue-green algae living in a plant cell? And every single thing you've ever seen that's green like the grass is green because you have algae in a symbiotic relationship with plant cells. Mitochondria, same thing. And so evolution has been badly misunderstood. And you're right. So Malthus, the word Malthusian means competition to the bitter death, right? I mean, and this is not how nature actually works.
Now, knowing what you know with this Evolution 2.0, are you still a Christian?
Absolutely. I think if people really understood evolution, the atheists would be trying to change the subject, and the Christians would be shouting it from the rooftops. I think there's more evidence for a divinely orchestrated universe in evolution than there is in anywhere else. It completely transformed my view of nature when I went down this rabbit hole.
All right, I want some practical secular applications for how you approach problem solving, including at the entrepreneurial level. I mentioned your status as a sort of a marketing guru consultant. And you wrote a piece over at Inc.com, which is a magazine for the small business owner, operator, entrepreneur, recently within the last few weeks about thinking about entrepreneurship and the sort of mental approach you should take to creating a business and pursuing the introduction of a new technique or a new product.
Nobody has to evolve faster than entrepreneurs. Every day, if you're an entrepreneur, you own a small business, every day you wake up with a gun to your head, make it better, make it faster, make it cheaper, make the service level go up, get more Google reviews, get more Yelp reviews. I mean, that's the game that you're in. And so I find that entrepreneurs understand evolution really well, because you do have to improve. And almost all breakthroughs come when you bridge one branch of knowledge with another, and breakthroughs almost always come from outsiders. So Charles Darwin was not a scientist. He was studying for the ministry, and I actually do give him credit. I mean, a lot of people like to slam the guy. He did come up with a brilliant insight. He was a total outsider. He was not part of the establishment. Thomas Edison didn't have a degree from anywhere. Albert Einstein was a patent clerk. Innovations almost always come from the outside. I always tell entrepreneurs, read outside your field. Go to conferences that are completely different. Indulge your hobbies. Your best ideas are going to come from somewhere else. They're not going to come from what you are trained to do specifically.
He is Perry Marshall. He's an American online marketing consultant of some renown, author of 80/20 Sales and Marketing, as well as Evolution 2.0, Breaking the Deadlock Between Darwin and Design. And he's put $10 million down if you want to break that deadlock. By the way, if you haven't read it too, not for Perry, but just in generally, David Stove's book, Darwinian Fairy Tales, is really good on this topic that we were discussing as well.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Is a hilarious book. It will make you bust out laughing. It is. Wow, what a pick. I mean, I would never expect a radio host from somewhere to pull out that book title, but
I'm not your average radio host.
Darwinian Fairies.
Yes.
No. I know. Don't mean to be that.
No. I'm kidding.
You.
He's
I'm
very
kidding.
well read. Trust me.
And no, but I mean, and that's where I learned. I mean, I was under the same misimpression about Malthus that everybody else was. Who knows who Malthus is? And that's where it was debunked for me, is reading Stove's book. So there you go.
Oh, he gives the whole thing a giant spanking. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's very good. Perry Marshall, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with Evolution 2.0. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Do you want your basement to be dry most of the time? If so, Permaseal is not the company for you. At Permaseal, we believe your basement should be dry all the time, no matter how hard it rains. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. I hear story after story of homeowners who say their basement only leaks when it rains. Well, you don't worry about your living room or bedroom getting wet when it rains, and you should feel the same way about your basement. Just call 800-421-SEAL. We offer a free estimate, no haggle pricing, and a price assurance guarantee, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best value. Your basement is already dry most of the time, but if you want your basement dry